Welcome back to the Peerless YouTube. I am Caitie North, and today we are going to be painting oysters and abalone shells. So this idea has been swimming around my brain for a while. I absolutely love how you can see every single color in these kind of like almost like holographic shells, and especially the abalone shell. You look one way and it's like pinks and greens and yellows, and you look the other way, it's these dark blues and purples, and I think it's so cool. So I've been wanting to do this, but I wanted to get out of my comfort zone a little bit too, because most of my stuff is more detailed and very planned out. And so this one I wanted to kind of let the water on the paper decide how the paint is going to go and mix and all of the fun things. So I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys like it. And it's also a little bit for my dad for his 60th birthday. They love oysters and all things boats and things like that. So I'm going to be spending his 60th birthday up in Washington. So I was very excited to paint something that reminded me of him. And yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I can't wait to see your paintings.
For your supplies, you'll need Peerless watercolors, Peerless transparent metallic in silver, watercolor brush and paper, masking fluid, extra fine detail brush, and a white gel pen or white ink. So to get started, you're going to want to draw your shells. I'm just looking at an abalone shell that I found on the beach here, which I was so surprised that they have them in Pismo. I was like mind blown that there's abalones here. But yeah, kind of a round circle shape with a little bit of an upper lip. There's going to be a spiral kind of coming from the right corner side. And then what's unique about the abalone shells is that they have those holes that are going smaller on the upper left hand of the shell that are actually all the way through the shell themselves, so it kind of gives it that cool little technique. And then I'm just kind of spiraling out from that little corner circle. And then, I mean, oysters, there's a million, shapes. As long as they're kind of oblonged and a little bit wavy and some funkiness, I feel like they're always gonna look good. Also, another reason why I didn't provide sketches of these, just because I feel like they're pretty simple, and I think if you guys are going to draw them yourselves, I think there's going to be a variety in how everyone's going to turn out uniquely their own, and I think it'd be really cool to see all of the difference. And then, of course, inside the oyster, I made a pearl, which I was thinking later that I don't think an oyster this size would actually make a pearl that size, so I might have made it a little bit too big, but, I was excited. So, yeah, now that we have our drawing, I am using just a little bit of masking fluid on those circles of the abalone shell, because I know I want those to stay nice and clean and white. And then around the edges of the pearl, and then where that highlighted area is on top of the pearl, I put a little bit of the masking fluid as well. And it is a great tool for always, if there's places that you want to keep white and you're kind of nervous about painting, just throw some masking fluid. This is a new masking fluid that I'm using. It's from Winsor & Newton. And it is slightly tinted, which kind of makes it a little bit easier for you guys to see. But I remember in my last video, I said don't use masking fluid that's been yellow, but that means it's been old, unless it is previously tinted for you, so you can see it a little bit easier on your page. So there's that. So my favorite thing about these is I was trying to get out of my comfort zone and do something a little bit less planned and see how the paper and the paint react together. And I am using the Archie's watercolor paper. I feel like the better quality paper, especially for this tutorial, makes a huge difference, because the way that it fans out from just like the single drop of paint on the paper, I feel like the quality of paper kind of decides how it disperses the paint a little bit as well. So keep that in mind. And then to get started, we are going to be starting on the oyster, and I'm going to be covering the entire oyster besides the pearl with water. So I'm just making sure it's saturated, and you'll be able to see me move my paper a little bit to see it kind of glistening with the light. You're going for fully saturated, but not a puddle. So you don't want the water to be running from any direction, but you want to see that perfect sheen of water when you tilt it in the light. All right, so right about here, you can see how it's water. You could see all of the sheen and the shine of the water, but no area is dripping or there's a puddle. So I'm just gonna be playing with my colors. I know I want it to be the darkest around the pearl, and then I know I kind of want it to be a little bit darker on the edges, kind of closer to where the shell, like the edge of it kind of folds up over a little bit. But other than that, I didn't really have that much of a plan. I knew I wanted to do all of these colors and kind of have a variety of there. But yeah, I'm just kind of placing them wherever. And you can see it just kind of fans out so beautifully on the paper. Again, also because the paper quality is a little bit nicer, I feel like you get those really awesome bleeds together. But yeah, right now I am just letting the water on the page decide how much is going to spread out. And I'm just kind of working around and adding all of my colors. So I think it looks so cool. So one thing I am trying to do is all around the upper left-hand side edges, I'm trying to make a good sharp line where the fold of the, like the outer part of the shell is. But other than that, I'm just trying to kind of get the little bit of a blend, but leave some of that white area to let the, you know, paper decide how it's going to disperse. If some parts are a little bit too dark, it's still wet at this point, so you can use a paper towel and lift a little bit of the paint up. And then while that kind of area is drying, I'm trying so hard not to overwork it because my natural thing is to fill up all of the space with paints always. So I was trying to chill out a little bit and let it do it on its own. So now I'm doing kind of that where the shell is connected on the left there, just with a little bit more of a natural kind of tan color, and then making that edge a little bit darker to kind of just sharpen it a little bit. But I'm obsessed. I think they're so cool. I want to do a whole series of these, and it totally is out of my comfort zone. I want to like fill up every single area with paint and like do like 5 layers on it, but I just love the softness and how it blends together. And sometimes you just have to remind yourself, like, it looks really cool like this too. Like, the simplicity is gorgeous. And so it was a fun practice, and I hope you enjoy it because it definitely was like, kind of hard for me to, you know, to not do it. So I don't know, doing something a little bit different. As soon as I started working on the pearl, I kind of remembered like all of those high school shadow drawings that you do, like to do the perspective and shadow and light sources and everything. Exact same thing. You're going to want to make a curve on the bottom. Instead of just doing it one color, I have a bunch of colors in there. So in the middle, it's kind of that, you know, teal blue. Up the shadow on the top is more of a purple. The shadows on the left hand are a little bit of the green. So I feel like it kind of makes it that iridescent pearly shape, that color too. But yeah, and I have that masking fluid, that lights highlighted area. And then one of my always favorite things to do for a circular, you know, shadowed area is have that highlight on the bottom that kind of highlights the lightest area next to the darkest where the shadow is. So that's why I keep the masking fluid there. But those will be on the second layer of that as well. So this is almost done for this first layer, and I will be working on the abalone shell next. Just kidding. My impatience got the best of me, obviously. I go around the edge again with the darker colors. Which one is it? I think it's the mountain green mixed with a little bit of the mixed berry. And I'm going along the very edges of it because I want the edge to be nice and sharp and crisp and clean. And then kind of right back on that area where I want the fold of that shell where the inside of the shell, or the part that connects the shell to the other half of the shell. I want there to be a nice line between there too. So, yeah. All right, so we're gonna start the abalone shell around the same way. I'm just waiting for a little bit of that masking fluid to dry completely. But I want to saturate the entire inside of the abalone shell with water. And then I'm going to be placing all of the colors a little bit more sporadically, because the abalone shells are unique in that they kind of shine every color. So when you look at them one way, it's kind of like a yellow to orange to green to blue. And then you look at it the other way, it's like this pink shimmer to purple to almost yellow. Like, they're really cool. They look holographic. They're so cool. So I wanted to give the idea that when you're looking at it, you see all of those colors. And then I'm using the transparent metallic dry sheets of the silver is going to be the sheen on top of it. So when you tilt it, you're going to get all of those shimmers, but with that shine over it. And it's going to dilute those colors a little bit. So when you see me putting all of those colors down, they're going to be very bright and vibrant. Don't worry that they're too bright, because when she puts that silver over it, they kind of mute it a little bit. So you want there to be enough kind of like brightness that once you dilute it a little bit with the silver, you're still going to see it through the sparkles of the silver. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm letting the wetness of the paper determine how well the blend is of the colors. But yeah, you kind of just play with it. And also, again, more is less with this one as well, because if you put too many colors down and it's so wet, then you're going to smush all those colors together and you're going to get more of a brown. And I really wanted those colors to stay vibrant and bright and not muted. So spacing them enough apart that they can stay their own color but blend a little bit together. But then you also can get all of the colors in there and bright enough so once you put the silver on, they don't get lost. So all of those things. A little crazy, but look at the abalone shell in the video next to it. Even from this angle, without it being tilted or turned, you can see every color of the rainbow too. It's just like why they're so cool. And I'm obsessed with them because they're just like so awesome. And I found that on the beach here. Like, it's so crazy. I didn't know that they were here. I thought they'd be in more like tropical places, but I guess I just never knew where abalones came from. So anyway, if you're looking at my reference shell next to it on the left, and then you're looking at my painting, you're kind of wondering, what are you doing, Caitie? Because that looks kind of insane. But I promise when the magic happens is when you put the silver over it. So I will check back in a little bit. I also wanted to say too, I did a little bit of lines, giving that shape, kind of that curve shape. And it was almost dry, but it was just barely wet because I don't want those lines to be a hard, sharp line, which usually I definitely want that. So that one was a little bit more of a softer, and it just gives that swoop of the line, but it does blend into the other one a little bit, so a little bit wet. All right, and then so back onto our oyster and our pearl. I am just kind of softening that white line from the masking fluid and making it a little bit skinnier. And then adding those colors kind of a little bit more so you get the variety. So purple in the corner, tealish blue for the darkest shadows, and then that kind of shimmer on the left-hand side. I'm using more of a green to kind of give that pearlescent, iridescent kind of tone. Okay, so if there's any areas, if you're looking at like a not a realistic, if you're looking at a real oyster shell and you notice any lines or kind of like discoloring or kind of like a lot of them have lines inside that are, you know, like growth lines almost. I am doing this in the second layer because I want them to be a little bit sharper. I am making sure my paint is pretty transparent because I don't want it to be like a very harsh line unless it's a shadow area. And I do want the harsh line, but other than that, I'm just kind of giving all of those little details and kind of building out just a little bit more of that texture. Again, I really, really, really like how soft and subtle it is. So I'm trying my hardest not to overwork it. And so whenever you're working on two at the same time, it's great because you are able to let that first one dry and then that other one that you should be almost dry by the time you're ready to kind of do the second layer or third layer. So now just getting a little bit more of those lines, like a nice crisp line around the very edge of it. And then you'll be able to do the next layer, which is after the masking fluid. So you're going to want to let it dry and then remove the masking fluid to reveal that perfectly pristine white paper underneath. And now we're going to kind of darken those circles to make them a little bit sharper, to make them look like they're a shell, like an actual shell, kind of that shadow that gives it the depth of it. And yeah. All right, so probably my all-time favorite part, obviously, because it is amazing. These sheets are insane. They have so much sparkle and pigment that they're amazing. They're so good. I absolutely love them. So if you do less water and more sparkles, you can get like a harder, line, and you won't be able to see through the sparkles as much. If you do a little bit more water, you can get like a shimmer or a sheen. So I'm putting a very light sheen over the entire pearl to make it look like the whole thing is actually shining. If you can see that, you get like a layer of sparkles. And then some areas around the oyster shell, I want there to be sparkles as well, but I want them to be a thicker layer of sparkle, and then just in certain areas. So some of the areas that I kind of wanted them were the lighter areas that are kind of already white with paper, and I kind of wanted them to shimmer silver. And then I kind of wanted to make some of those growing lines that I was talking about, but with sparkles too. So it's just kind of that shimmer. So the majority of this one, I wanted the shell to pop out, not the shell, the pearl to pop out the most and look like the most vibrant and sparkly. And then the next one for the abalone, we are going to be doing a ton of sparkles. So instead of doing a sheen over it, if you look at abalones, you can kind of see like the shells, they kind of spiral out. So they kind of spiral towards the little circles, and then they also spiral from that little circle in the corner. So I kind of want there to be the thickest amount of paint where the shell is the highest. And then see those little checkerboards that I've kind of made where the spirals kind of collide, and they're actually kind of like the snake skin. So they're like a fishnet pattern. You can see here too. I'm trying to fill in those like squares almost, or diamonds, and then leave a little bit of that line. So when you tilt it, you still get that pattern a little bit, and it's just not all shiny, but you get that kind of checkerboard, fishnet kind of diamond pattern, if that makes sense. Around again once that inside part is done. I want to make that outer shell pretty iridescent and pearly too. And yeah, so I feel like this one definitely has a much more amount of paint. But I feel like, you know, in natural life, they are like insanely sparkly. So I do have to apologize. My white highlighted video did not record. So I showed us, you know, a tiny video, but basically I went around all of the edges and made them super clean, and then made some of those kind of super skinny growing edges. And I also did it on the abalone as well. Pretty easy for the highlighting. So, but I do apologize that video got deleted. And here is my completed abalone and pearl painting.
Watching, make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and we will see you next time.